Welcome to the Right Place podcast, where we learn with you how to build connections that matter, relationships that last, and businesses that thrive. My name is John Watson, and today I'm joined by Andy Spence. He's the director of Merapar Agile Technologies. Andy, great to chat to you today.
Yeah, great to speak to you too, John. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, Andy. Really looking forward to learning more about Merapar and your journey as well. But Andy, my first question is, my son plays rugby. He's a flank, number 7. He's always involved in the scrum action. You also love to scrum. You built a career out of it, but that's not quite the rugby type of scrum. Tell me about all the scrumming that you do.
So yeah, I'm a professional scrum trainer and the furthest thing from a rugby player you can imagine. So I'll give you a quick brief of where this scrum thing came from. So in the mid 1980s, a group of Japanese gentlemen wrote something in the Harvard Business Review called the New Product Development Game. And it spoke effectively about how people were coming to work as teams, moving up the field towards a common goal, and they equated it to a rugby team mauling up the field or scrumming up the field. This is very, very basic version of this story, by the way. But and two gentlemen, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, in 1995 presented the Scrum framework at a development conference in the United States, and they took inspiration from that talk in the Harvard Business Review in the mid 80s, and they coined their new framework, Scrum. And it had that ethos of a collective team working towards a common goal, together, and that was the whole drive of this. And that's where Scrum came from. And obviously, people, I find it really funny. I'll go to. I was at Twickenham once doing a presentation, and I think it was the Harlequins rugby team came in, and they're going, "What's this Scrum stuff?" And I had to explain what Scrum was to a bunch of rugby players. So the irony is not lost on me at all.
That's quite a fascinating story. I think also what I've seen with Scrum, just on the rugby side again, I mean, there's different roles and responsibilities. Not everyone is in the front row. Some people are from the side, some people are from the back. So I think everybody can kind of find their own place in the Scrum technique at a company.
Yeah, so I mean, effectively, agile ways of working in general are built around teams. It's built around this collective of teams. Why? Because we can share skill sets, we can share knowledge, we can get emergent leadership, and that's what it was all about. It's like everyone's got their unique roles, but also everyone also has a shared group of roles that they can do. And that was a big concept of this as we're thinking about a Scrum team moving towards a common goal. You connect together as a team. There's unique specialisms, but how do we grow that cross functionality? And that was really, really important in the kind of Scrum framework, effectively.
Okay, excellent. Now, you obviously love problem solving, and you've got a lot of energy and bringing ideas to the table. What would you say are the 3 biggest problems that you could solve for a client using the Scrum techniques and the Agile framework?
The first thing that most companies will come and talk to me about is they'll tell me they aren't fast enough. We're not fast enough. We're not delivering fast enough. It's not, everything's too slow, right? And actually, when you unpick that, there's so many reasons as to why you're slow. If you've been working in a certain way for so long, you're going to try all the things that you know to try and improve. And I think coming to someone like myself is obviously when we look at different methods for approaching work, we can have a look at different things that actually pull the lever on why you're slow. And that leads into other things I've seen often, right? And what some of them are, I've had, Andy, we're not an attractive business, or we've got a very high turnover rate of staff, and that sometimes the two can go hand in hand because the staff are getting burnt out. They want to leave. They want to get out the door. This is not the environment for them. So in the push to go faster, they're actually increasing burnout on people, and so now we're seeing a revolving door at places. So that's another big one. And the third one I can probably put, and there's no order of these, by the way, but probably the most important is that people come to me to be faster, and colleagues like myself, but it's relevance. Relevance is another one. My competitors are beating me to the punch. They're stealing my lunch, they're stealing my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Like it's something along those lines, or there's a threat over here, or the world is changing so much more continuously around me. I'm struggling to keep up. So it's not just about delivering fast. It's actually making sure you're a viable entity and a viable enterprise for people to come and seek services from. And the three kind of go hand in hand. And so it's about value delivery. It's about people that are connected to purpose so that they want to be there, but also working in ways that are sustainable, that can keep you delivering at a healthy and effective rate. That's a good top three.
I think the relevance one is very important. I think a lot of people they miss the big picture. They forget why they exist. They forget what journey are we actually on here. Now, thinking back to the training that you give on this, and obviously you're an expert in this field, what is important in terms of a mindset from the trainer point of view, but then also the people that you're giving the training to?
Mindset is a very important thing. And as I mentioned to you, there's been particular ways we've been delivering work for years. And that is, it's very rightfully so. It came from good intentions and good places, but commonly what we'll do is we'll see a problem or something we want to achieve or something we need to go after. And what we'll do is we'll make some plans. Absolutely normal. Perfect. Everyone's planning. That's good. But we get to this point where we plan and 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 we plan. So what happens is the rate of change around us, whether it's through technology or whether it's all the requirements we want or the people themselves, those things are continuously changing. And you cannot use these kind of long-term plan-driven approaches to execute anymore. Okay. And so that's the question. That's the mindset thing. I'll start with people like, how often is your situation changing? How often do the requirements change for your customers? How often is your technology changing? And how often is the dynamics of your people changing? And if that's continuously and it's causing a problem, this plan-driven approach is probably not going to be great for you. So I'll talk to people about this, and we call it, it's defined process control. Effectively, it's a plan it out perfectly and execute perfectly. So now we're going to flip it around. How do we become more adaptive? So we need to do things where if things are complex, very complex around us, there's a lot of unknowns. And so in order to kind of get some validation on those unknowns, you need to test. You need to, to do something, get some feedback on it, and then approach, and then, act accordingly. Probe, sense, respond effectively. And so you need some form of adaptive system, right? And so that's the first main takeaway I'm going to talk to my students about, right? It's the right tool for the right job. If things are simple, things aren't changing a lot, probably plan-driven approaches are fine. Nothing wrong. But if things are changing a lot, we need to become more adaptive. That's the first thing I'll talk to with my students. From a training perspective, the way we teach people is so, so important, because you want things to resonate, different learning methods and different learning styles. And for years and years and years, the number one way we would do training. I mean, I don't know when you last went on training, but it's death by PowerPoint if you're lucky, right? Or maybe it's in a classroom and there's a whiteboard there and someone's scribbling on the right whiteboard and you take your notes and there we go, right? That was a traditional method of teaching, and we've been doing that for ages as well. But there's different ways of ingratiating people and working with people in different ways to make learning more sticky. Sharon Bowman's training from the back of the room has been a big concept for many, many years. But that's engaging people in different ways. So actually getting people to immerse themselves in an experience, getting people to work in smaller groups, using different types of structures like liberating structures to help people break out and create more sticky learning. Utilize your brain in different ways and create images in your mind that make you hold on to that. So that's a different aspect from a training perspective. And so when people come on a training course with someone like me or my colleagues, is they're going to have this really engaged learning session. So you don't come to just sit and write down notes. You're going to interact. You're going to talk. You're going to play. You're going to work on walls, work on floors. You're going to work all over the place and really make that space a great place for learning and interaction and networking. By the way, John, what are we doing here, right? Networking is so important, and how better to network with people by actually meeting them where they are, working with each other through problems and solutions, right?
Thanks, Andy. I really love that answer. I really think the creative teaching and the creative learning builds then that bridge between the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that you wish the students have. And if you're just going to talk to them, you're going to show slide after slide, they're going to zone out, they're going to just stare out the window. But if it's interactive and you're making it stick, I think that's clearly the way to go.
But actually, when you make an interactive session, and sometimes someone will ask you as the supposed expert in the room the question, and you flip it around, you go, what does the rest of the room think about that idea? And suddenly you've got, I've done this, I had that, oh, I did this once, and this is what I did to solve it. Suddenly you've got that kind of, thinking by group, and you kind of like you get people sharing ideas, and they walk away with more than just my expertise. They walk away with the people that they came on the course with.
And with all the training that you've done, what have you seen are some of the biggest misconceptions about going through an agile transformation?
Ooh, the biggest thing I think I see as a problem in the agile space is agility and the agile frameworks and things that people use to be agile, the simplicity in them, the perceived simplicity. So, you read the Agile Manifesto, right? Interactions and interactions over processes and tools, all these wonderful things. It's simple to read, and you go, yeah, I get that. Cool. Makes sense. Hey, I read the Scrum guide, 14 pages, easy peasy. There's 3 roles, there's 5 events, there's 3 artifacts, easy, right? It's easy. Come on a 2-day class with me, boom, I'm trained up. I'm trained up, baby, let's go, right? And it's that perceived simplicity. So why do you need anything more once you've got the tools? You can run it until you start playing. We were just speaking, we spoke about rugby. Right, and I often equate it like it's just a metaphor. Some fail, some are helpful. It's like if you're an organization that's been working in a plan-driven approach for a very long time, and you decide to embrace agile ways of working, it's like going from playing football, or soccer, and saying, "Hey, we're going to play rugby." Right, it's just an example. It's a new sport, right? You can get some of the concepts. You can get, okay, the ball's oval now, and there's 15 players now, so it's different, but the pitch is roughly the same, but actually there's a lot of difference. You can't just go start playing rugby. You need a coach. You need someone to help you through this, or someone who's done this stuff before. And that is a perception, I think, that has often waned. And you see a lot of people coming in, kind of getting the bare basics, jumping into this stuff, and a lot of it, we miss a lot of the meat behind it and the principles that really drive it. And I think that's one of the misconceptions. The other one is that I've often engaged with leaders that expect this stuff to happen to their staff. Right? It's got to happen to the teams. They're the ones not delivering. They're the ones that aren't fast. Andy, come in and teach them how to be more efficient. And when I'll come into an organization, I'll say, can I talk to you too? How do you feel about me coaching up the chain, not just down the chain? Right? Because this stuff never works and will never work if we do not get some form of holistic change. And the thing is, ultimately, yes, the frameworks and tools are great, but it's a cultural change. It's a mindset shift. And if you want that mindset shift to actually stick, culture starts at the top. So I see people really buying into stuff and really getting benefit from the stuff when they see their leaders doing it too. The stuff crumbles and falls when it's just on them, and it's a new delivery mechanism.
I love that answer, Andy. I love that answer. And I think looking back over your almost 2 decades of experience as a coach, how do you feel that you've changed during this journey? Obviously, you're a change agent. You're trying to implement new strategies, new ideas, new energy at companies. But how have you changed over these last 2 decades?
Well, for one, my hair fell out. I had a lot longer hair when I started this journey. A lot of people seeing this today, they haven't seen me in a while. But Andy, I'm sure you had hair like long down to here. Have I changed? I mean, obviously, with a lot of maturity and a lot of experience, these things naturally change you. I think that thing I just said to you about having a coach, right? So if I think about when I started doing this stuff, it was about 2009 or so when I started doing the agile stuff. This is excluding all my IT experience before, but when I started really embracing the role of Scrum Master and trying to make change in the organization, I went in without a coach, read exactly what I did, read the 14 pages or 16 as they were back in those days, and I read them and I kind of went, I'm going to wing this stuff. And I'm sure, much like if I was driving a car and someone just said, here, press pedal, do this, do that, and I just taught myself how to drive, I'd pick up a lot of bad habits. And so there's a lot of, when I started, it was all very procedural, right? Scrum was very procedural. Do the events, do the framework, do the stuff. Was Kanban, do exactly what it says in the tin, but you kind of missed the humanity behind it that was required, the professionalism behind it that was required. At the end of the day, this is about delivering value. And I certainly got sucked into the traps of things like, it's about being the cool guy on campus, right? Like I'm going to make those retrospectives the funkiest they've ever been. Like, I'm gonna help these teams feel right at home. I'm going to have happy teams, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a good thing to have happy teams. I'd love to have happy teams. But one thing that certainly changed in my mind is I'm not there to be the popular person. And unfortunately, you sometimes have to hit, if you're willing to take your team through the highs, you've got to take them through the lows as well. And that means sometimes holding real accountability against them, holding them to their own commitments and their own, well, hopefully small failures so that we can learn and get better. But there's still accountability in that and professionalism that we need to look at. And that's what I've certainly changed in my mind over these last few years is let's aim for happy teams. That's great. Let's do that. But you've got to aim for delivery as well. You've got to aim for value. If you're not doing that, well, if your company's not existing, it doesn't matter how happy your team is. Right? And there's a big balancing act in all of this. And I think that's something I've flipped in my mind. Is that I think it used to be just assist people where they are, be nice, all these things. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. Sometimes, just like a good football coach, apologies to anyone on the podcast if you're not a fan, but I'm a big Liverpool fan. Jurgen Klopp is a fantastic example of a good coach and manager for me because he's one of those coaches who knows when to put an arm around his players and when to give them a kick up the backside, right? And that's a really important thing to be able to do. And he knows how to navigate conflict with his team because conflict actually is where good ideas are generated. And so it's important to try and get those things happening because if we're not doing that, then effectively we're doing a disservice and we're reducing transparency in our system. And how do we change? So important to what we do as Scrum Masters. We've got to get transparency high so that we can make the right adjustments.
Absolutely. I love that answer. I think it's very important for if a company brings you in, or an agile coach or a scrum master, they are kind of admitting that they need help. If you need help, well, let's do it properly. Otherwise, you're just going to be there to maintain the status quo and to say, it's not as bad as it is. You can probably continue down this path. But I mean, that's just absolutely illogical. I mean, they're paying money at this and they're missing out on opportunities to grow, to get faster, to become more relevant. So, I mean, it's in everyone's interest. Let's just handle this like adults. Let's have that transparency, like you mentioned, which is very important. And let's actually solve the problem. Let's not pity-patty around the problem and ignore the elephant in the room.
Yeah. And listen, that is a skill. People need to trust you to be able to handle that elephant in the room. That's a very important part of a good agile coach, a good scrum master. Any person helping lead a team is being able to handle that elephant in the room and handle it well and move teams towards a positive and productive outcome. That's not always guaranteed. So there's a lot of like relationship making, trust building. There's experimentation, that you may need to run. So if you're seeing a team fight over what's the right answer to the solution, and there's two options, but maybe and this is where Scrum can really help you. How about for the next 2 weeks, we run both and see which one gets there first, right? Cool. You prove it to us, which is the right way to go. So dual running ideas, things like that. These are ways to kind of move through things, but also you mustn't be afraid to call that elephant out and get people to acknowledge it and do something about it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Now, Andy, you've been a regular attendee of the CBN, the Clara Business Network, since you arrived in South Africa about 10 months ago, and you've seen us in action there. How does Andy and Merapar, how do you add value to the people in your network? What are some of your go-to strategies there?
And so one of the first things I'll talk to about people in my network is that actually, let's talk about that exact thing I spoke to you about in the beginning. How much are things changing around you? Is that level of change increasing or decreasing, maintaining? And if you find that the level of challenge because of change around you through requirements or the way you want to go about doing something, right? So originally in the IT space, we'd say, here's your requirements, here's your technology you're going to use. But I worked in internal audit for many years. And what was their product? Their product was getting their opinion to people. It was so critical that we got that opinion as soon as possible so that people could say, I know what I need to go and fix or change or do to meet regulatory requirements or whatever that may be. And then we were finding actually, it was taking 6 to 8 months to get that opinion on your desk. And by the time the opinions landed, everything's changed or the thing's been fixed and so we're seeing this relevance problem in the audit industry. People are going, what's the point of the audit department? All they do is come and annoy me for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, ask me for tons of findings, and then give me something 6 months late. This was a pattern we were seeing, especially in the banks. And so right, let's focus on the product. Your product is your opinion. Let's get early and continuous validation of some of those findings and help mitigate and reduce risk as soon as possible. We start thinking about the value of what we do and the kind of product or major service that we have. That's when you can actually align the right people, get the right cross-functional skills associated with what you need to do. Remove silos. Silos are a big problem, right? So you got this guy, he's the only expert in the business. How you got to dissect Mr. Expert 50 ways to go and meet several teams on different projects. And then some of them are waiting months and months and months before they get this person. And you're going, actually, what would have been the most valuable thing we could have done first? Bringing that person in, or maybe this person could help do some upskilling on things that we could share some accountability on. So trying to look at different ways to be more agile. What's agile? Adaptive. Respond to change more effectively. And if change is occurring around you lots more, you got to do that. So what can I do for the CBN, for the business areas? Anyone who's got a business where you're finding the rate of change becoming really hard for you to maintain or work with, come talk to me and I'll help you think about some different adaptive ways that you can apply some practical steps to navigate change, because this is key. When you come from a plan-driven environment, you want to plan, and avoid change as much as possible. But when change is happening all around you continuously, we can't do that anymore. So let's build some foundations that allow you to navigate and adapt and respond to change, so that change doesn't feel so draining, and so you get that change fatigue. You know how many times I come into an organization, oh, Andy, not another thing. We're just too busy. We're too busy to learn a new tool, and we got another change management program coming up later, and so we can't change it again. And you go, but hang on, change. You aren't in control of change. Change is happening all around you all the time. We need to learn to navigate it. So come talk to me if you want to look at ways you become more adaptable. If you feel you become stagnant, stale, you're slow, irrelevant, any of those things.
I think a lot of business owners that you might end up talking to are quite impatient. They want instant results. They don't want to pay for it, and they want to crush their competition all in one long weekend type of thing.
Yeah.
But how do you balance the technical aspects of the agile coaching with also the strategic needs of the business, and to ensure that they're still going to get to some sort of results in a good time frame?
I mean, this is the thing about the complex space. Nothing is certain. Agile ways of working, in particular Scrum, will do is they will reveal your problems. It will turn that transparency up to 10. Well, at least it should. If a good Scrum Master, a good Agile coach will be turning transparency up in the spaces and getting things clear and simple so that people can make decisions. At the end of the day, only the company can make those decisions. Only the company can actually, so it will reveal your problems. It's not going to resolve them. Only you can resolve them. And so it's about that kind of frequency to change. Now, someone wants to smash their competitors, but they're not getting there on time. Well, we may have to look at some of the inner workings of the company. We may have to look at some of the existing processes. You know how many times I come into an organization and it's the legacy process they've built for themselves that is causing them the slowness to beat their customers. And we have to shine a light on it. And and there's a cultural attitude we see with this as well, depending on how long you've been at the company and how long the things. That's how we've always done it. I see that all the time. But that's how we do it. And you go, who made the process? We did. So who can change the process? We can, right? But that is sometimes such a mental leap to take. You need the evidence, but then also you need a bit of boldness and courage. One of the Scrum values, courage, my favorite one, to take a step and try something new. And this is why I think this is so important about something like a cyclic framework or initiative framework like Scrum, is because it actually allows you a 2-week experiment. So if people are low in trust about these changes and are concerned, you can go, well, hey, let's run it for 2 weeks and see what happens. Look, it's a controlled experiment, right? We're constantly planning. We're always planning. This is the difference with Agile versus, the plan-driven approaches. You make a giant plan, then you stick to that agreement like glue because you don't want to plan that again. Agility, we plan. We look at long-term goals. We look at short-term goals. We then adapt to those short-term goals to see if we're moving our way towards the long-term goal. Is it validated? Isn't it validated? right? Very important. So you move through that. So you are looking long term, but you're not making everything detailed in a giant list of to-dos. You're actually looking at ways to navigate because things may change along the line. And that's really critical, right? So the transparency is key. And if you want transparency to be as clear as possible, to be as transparent as possible, leadership need to start building trust, because people need to know that they can give that information upwards, and then know that their leadership are going to respond to that information in an appropriate fashion.
Through all of this change and the process of coming into a team or corporate, how important is communication around all of this? Because if you don't get the buy-in from day one, I mean, you're just going to be banging your head against the wall. The corporate or the powers that be are going to be questioning, like, what's actually going on here? Nothing is changing.
Yeah.
They might not want anything to change, but they at least want to see something has changed, even if it's just a logo or email format or something like that. So talk to me about communication.
It's vital. Communication in any walk of life is vital, right? From whether it be a coach shouting on the side of the pitch to how the team members communicate with each other, you've got to be able to communicate. And obviously that complexity of communication scales as the size of the business gets bigger, right? So you go to a large scale bank, 150,000 people, and you want to initiate a change. It's a very, 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 very complicated thing to make sure you maintain communication. I'm working with clients right now who are, maybe about more than 1,000, 2,000 colleagues or something like that. But even then, it's, you've got systems you need to change. And so the kind of communication is key. But another thing is to not eat the whole elephant at once, so to speak, right? So pick off small parts that you can learn from, get some systems in place, make sure you're learning from it into a space that makes it viable and sustainable. Then try and then take that out into pieces as you learn across the organization. You can then manage communication more effectively. But you need 100%, you need a connection from your leaders through to where the change is happening, so that we can manage that. And with change comes a lot of anxiety. You get buy-in and anxiety, right? You get people that are going, woohoo, the change is here we asked for. I've been talking about this for years. Thanks, Andy. Great you're here. Let's get on with this. Great, you get those people that buy in. But then you also get the people who don't get to buy in because they've got to kind of run maybe some of the BAU or projects that are underway or whatever that may be. And you get this kind of organizational anxiety, envy, whatever it may be. Like, what are they doing over there? Why aren't I getting some? Does that mean I'm under threat? Does that mean I'm under pressure? So it's important you keep talking about the story. You do have some form of projection for where you want to go with this stuff, but it's not always easy to build that in. And because sometimes people's internal communication mechanisms are sometimes the problem. So actually building that in itself requires a bit of experimentation and how you get that right and get the sweet spot. And so that's really important. And the other thing is just to know, if you ever go under any form of transformation or something like this, is you're going to get these ebbs and flows of good and bad. And actually, what you might find is there's a bit of a dip before you get to a crescent. So what often I see with leadership is they hit the dip and go, "This thing isn't working." and it's and you're kind of going, well, you need to give it its chance. You need to sit, you need to learn, you need to be patient, and how you respond to it's going to be very, very important. So now you also got to make you're trying to do change whilst delivering. There's a balance, and leaders need to be aware of that, and leaders need to keep a close ear to the ground and on the pulse of this thing, and work with the people. It's so important. So take it off in small chunks. Make sure there's communication mechanisms from top to bottom, so things can be talked about. Talk about your successes, talk about your failures, talk about the challenges, talk about the opportunities, right? Be warts and all. Don't hide things. Don't sell a blissful story of sunlit uplands, something like that, because Agile is here. Do not do that. Your people aren't stupid, but engage them, meet them where they are, help bring them on the journey, but also tell them if they aren't coming on the journey yet. Be clear about those things. Very, very important. But don't try and change the whole organization at once, because we know that doesn't work.
But then, like you said, just going back to those basics, because in a nutshell, it's normally a company has a service or product they need to sell. They need to sell it faster, or they need to develop it faster, or they need to roll it out faster, or they've got a people problem where the people don't understand what they're doing. I mean, that in a nutshell is what you're dealing with. You can have a 50-page strategic document, that's not going to tell you what the company does or why they exist or what is their competitive advantage or what is their why. So by bringing someone like you into the room, that's just asking these questions, like the basic question, like what are we doing here? What do you get paid to do?
Yeah.
I know what you're doing, but what do you get paid to do? Where's your value at? I really think that can help someone.
And connecting those people that work for you to that purpose. I find a lot of organizations seem to want to keep that separated. The people working on the technical teams, they don't get to know what the business are doing anymore. And they just got to do their jobs. It's like, but actually imagine I knew that the thing I was working on made the company $1 million or got the company 1 million new followers or users, or I don't know, saved X amount of plastic out of the ocean, or something that actually has connection. When you get people onto that stuff, you'll see very, very motivated workers very quickly. And the speed of delivery starts not mattering anymore when you've got customers that really trust you, know that you deliver a product that matters, and your people buy into it. Now, that's utopia, brilliant. But there are companies doing this. And the companies that aren't doing this, you can do it. Come and talk to people like myself, colleagues. It's always good to get an external pair of eyes as well. I learned this from internal audit, especially, right? When internal audit were trying to think about why they were relevant, right? Because this was the perception of an audit, of someone being audited. Oh God, the auditors are coming. Oh, I don't have time. I've got to deliver as well. And it was like this. And what are they here to do to me? You know, they're here to catch me out, and I'm gonna hate my life, right? Like for the next 2 weeks, and I'm just going to be bogged down with findings and things I now need to fix on top of my day job. It was imagine being an auditor coming into that lovely environment, and it was like, hey, no. That's not what internal audit was about in particular. Internal audit was your extra set of eyes. We're a partnership. We're here to give you an extra look at something so we can make sure we're right with our clients, with our regulators, everyone, our reputation's intact, and we're giving you that extra look, right? Now we've got a different relationship going. We're not here to catch you out. We're here to find something. If there's a problem, we can get it, nip it in the bud and sort it out. It's a different relationship. And that's the thing. So if you bring coaches or people like that in, and they can bring you an external point of view, sometimes that's all they need. Just a day with someone else who's got a bit of a different set of eyes, who can ask that question that you didn't think about because you've been doing this for the last 10 years, 5 years, 2 months, whatever that may be. But there's a healthy relationship I think a lot of businesses need to embrace with external support, internal skill uplift, which is so important, connection from leadership down through to the teams and back up the chain. Right, that transparency, all those things. And those are so important and critical to a modern ecosystem if you want to deliver value.
No, I agree with you there. And just talking about bringing in a different set of eyes, I mean, there are a couple of business coaches around in Cape Town, some of them very high profile.
Yes.
What would you say gives you an edge in terms of your partnership with scrum.org? And what do you bring to the table that a normal business coach or a very high profile business coach might not necessarily look at when they come into a company?
I don't know if it's about competitive edge, and I don't know if I'm in competition with any of these people. I often look at this as an opportunity for partnership because sometimes those business coaches have a really, really good knack of how to get that information out of leaders, what it is they really want. And whilst I have my techniques of doing that, maybe there's someone who's just better at that than I am. And if I can leverage that, fantastic. And if we can work together. But one thing I can certainly bring, and I see this happening a lot with business coaching and maybe life coaches within business, is they will do a lot to enrich the individual. They'll do a lot to enrich maybe the strategy of the company. They'll do stuff like that and connect people to a vision that sells. But often that's where they're left. They're left with a cool strategy of what they should do, not how they should do it. So where I can come in and help you with that, I can help you with the stuff we just said. But on top of that, I can also say, all right, what type of space are we in? Is this a complex space? Do you have all the answers or don't you? Because if you don't, you're going to have to do some experimentation. You need to be adaptable. How are you currently adaptable? Yes or no? No, we've been doing plan-driven approaches our whole life because now we're going to take this strategy. We're going to make a 6-month plan and go and execute that doesn't fall into line. And then the poor consultancy they got the strategy with is probably not looking good either because they're going like, no one implemented it like we thought they would, right? So implementation of the strategy is something I can help you with. And it's not about a competitive edge, it's about a partnership. Because if you're getting someone that actually is pulling out the right things out of your strategy, awesome. But then if you need someone to come and help you do the implementation, I can certainly help you with that.
I'm all for collaborations and kind of owning your niche. And some business coaches might have some blind spots, and you might be the perfect complement to that, to come in and actually get down to the nitty gritty, work with the teams a bit closer, while the business coach is looking at the strategy or looking at things from maybe a high level angle. Get someone in that's got the agile training, got the scrum training, to actually deliver on the ground and start changing things that have been set in stone for decades and decades.
Often a business coach or a person like that will be working on all the high level vision stuff, the strategy, what's the next valuable thing to do. That's really good stuff. But I don't know how many of them, and maybe some are, so please don't let me tie anyone with the brush if they aren't there, but talking to the leadership about how they actually work together. Right. And because I actually come in, I talk about the leadership, right? You've got to put a cycle around yourselves. In fact, the chaos around leadership's more, is usually more. The amount of change around a leadership unit is usually 10 times that the teams feel. So many things they've got to factor in. You got a finance department inside an organization. You see the amount of change they've got to deal with. And then they try to put in things like 1 year process plans to try and ease that pain, but actually it causes more pain. So you've actually got to spend months and months and months planning your next financial year. And that no one enjoys budget time when that's happening, right? So there's all sorts of places in the business we need to put in the right frameworks, the right adaptive cycles, and whatever you need around these parts of the organization, and make sure they're connecting well together, connecting into the bigger goals of the business, connecting into the individual goals as a department, and making sure they all complement each other. And that's really, really hard to see always. So that implementation piece is vital. And so, so if I have to come and partner with a business coach, I'm all for it.
I think that's a great point, Andy. Now, Andy, looking ahead to September, you hosted in-person professional Scrum Master training here in Cape Town.
Yes.
Who is this training aimed at, and what can people expect to get out of it?
Right. So, I mean, maybe you're a project manager. Maybe you're you've been working in a particular way for ages. You've heard about this agile stuff. You've heard about the Scrum stuff. You want to up your skill set. Absolutely. Please come join my party. Product owners, product managers, people that are trying to deal with their teams but having a bit of struggle with their teams. Developers themselves, maybe developers, maybe a lead developer or someone like that's like having a problem trying to unite the team, get more cross-functionality. We're not getting much there. Our ways of working are falling by the wayside. We've done the Scrum stuff before, but no one ever properly taught us. Maybe you want to come along. Architects, software testers, team leads, business analysts, anyone along those lines. Are you involved in delivery or application of your work? Come and talk to me. So the Professional Scrum Master class from scrum.org is all about teaching you about the framework, teaching you about the accountabilities, teaching you about this unique role of the Scrum Master and its ability to actually become a real change, a true change agent, right, inside your organization. And we're not here to command and control and get you to deliver. That's not the point. Obviously, we want delivery. Of course, we want delivery. But there's a whole bunch of factors we're trying to work with in the team. So we're coaching, we're facilitating, we're mentoring, we're teaching, we're doing things along those lines to try and uplift the skills within teams, because we're trying to create more self-management. Because when there's self-management, there's more accountability and more professionalism. Well, that's what we hope is going to happen when you embrace these things. Also, it reduces this kind of reliance on this management level to just constantly have to be on top of everything, when people can actually own their own accountability in an organization. So what will you learn? You as a Scrum Master can figure out about how the theories, the principles, the framework, and very core things like a definition of done can really make an impact for work. When you're showing off product to people that is really in a done state that we can actually get out to customers, you get real feedback. And that's really important. How do we get to that state? So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about how you work with people and teams. We're going to talk about how you elevate your product delivery, what a product is versus what a project is. They are two different things when you think about them, right? Projects, small little things you go off and do in small fits and starts, but actually, how do you connect the whole of what you're doing to a larger value stream, a product that you can get more stable and core teams around? Because we know when there's less change amongst our people, we can become more predictable in what we're doing, right? So things like that. And so let's talk about what this role of Scrum Master can do and offer your organization. That's what the PSM1 or this PSM class is going to teach you. The Professional Scrum Master class is going to help teach you.
No, Andy, that's excellent. I really encourage people to attend this training, and it's going to be in-person training, so it's going to be good to connect with other people. share some war stories from the trenches, obviously interact with you, get questions answered on their major pain points, learn some new skills. And I really encourage people to look it up. We'll put a link down in the description below. Now, Andy, you've had a very interesting journey, and coming out of the UK, now you're in South Africa, you're going full steam ahead with Merapar Agile. Where would you say are you going to be in 5 years' time? What is that goal that you're working towards?
We're not a consultancy that are trying to get our foot in the door and stay with you for millions of years. That's not how we see things. We're a lot about enriching our clients to actually be able to do what we do and do it well and learn from us and create partnerships so we can help you and help do new amazing things. And so that ethos is why I joined Merapar in the UK and Netherlands and was helping out there. And I think in 5 years' time, I'd like to see a better presence of what we're doing here on the ground, but also from the Scrum.org perspective, I really want to train others to do what I do and help people. And obviously, as a South African, born and raised in Joburg, I have a passion for helping the people of this nation. And I really want to bring these skills to people so we can have more PSTs, more people doing this, but people doing it professionally, doing it well. And if I can bring any of that experience I've been able to go on over the last 22 years in the UK and bring that here and help people on that journey, then if in 5 years' time I've got a group of people around me and a wonderful network around me of people that are helping make positive and impactful change at organizations, helping them to deliver, helping South Africa to really put a mark on the global economy of the world and make a change here, because there's a lot of people that are interested in what Africa can do. If I can help that, that's exactly why I'm here.
I think if you make that your mission, you can only be successful, because people want to get on board with that mission. People want to make a difference, and you're obviously a difference maker. I think everyone has got their own value to bring and to give, and I believe with your training and your experience, you can add value to almost any organization. Now, Andy, that being said, here in 2024, are you in the right place?
I think so. I mean, I had it on my heart over the last few years that home was calling, and we, my wife and I discerned over this over a good time, and after much thought and prayer, doors opened to come here, and we're so grateful to be home. It's home, and it's not home in a way, because I grew up in Joburg. I'm now in Cape Town, but it is home, and I've met just some wonderful people through the CBN. In fact, already just through the CBN, have been able to engage in some businesses side. So that's a fantastic thing. And there is something so wonderful about the South African kind of ethic towards business and how we approach business. And I think is a lot of enthusiasm for what we're doing. And I think with the passion I've got and enthusiasm I'm seeing from our people, and as someone returning, as someone who left and has come back, and I think I can offer something. Do I feel I'm in the right place? Absolutely. And I feel I have been called in some way, shape or form, and I hope I can live up to that and really help. So yeah, I think I'm in the right place.
No, Andy, we're very happy to have you back in South Africa. You're clearly adding value, connecting with the right people, and looking forward to seeing you more often at the CBN and in between that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andy Spence. It's been wonderful to talk to you, Andy. We're going to put all of your links down below. Please connect with Andy on LinkedIn, via his website as well. If you're in the market, please check out the training that's going to be happening in September. It's going to be in person. It's going to be interactive. And I think there's going to be a lot of value there. Andy, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolute pleasure. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you again next time at the right place.